WaTasha, thanks for being with me today. I am Nikki Lunsford, a part of the Middletown Research Study Project on Social Services. The date is April 17th, 2019, and we're at the YWCA on Charles Street, downtown Muncie. So thank you so much for sharing what you know about the YWCA, Muncie, Middletown, USA.
Thank you.
So my first question to you today is I just want you to spill out your life story, how you got to the position that you are in at the moment, and just from little on.
So I was born and raised here in Muncie, Indiana, the south side of town on Macedonia and First Street, right? So I was raised by some strong matriarchal women, my mother, my grandmother, and my aunts. My grandmother had 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls, her and her husband, and my mother was the youngest of them. She graduated from Muncie Southside High School. She got pregnant when she was 16, and she had a baby girl named WaTasha when she was 17, pregnant walking across the stage. And so after high school, my grandmother just really undergirded her and supported her and helped her continue to go into college and get her nursing degree, and just kind of helped raise me. And so just from their guidance and support, always pushing, you never stop. And so they raised me. Where we grew up was middle class. We were close to the lowest part of middle class, but still there, and much better than the folks in the community around us. And so uniquely about where I grew up, there is first in Macedonia. Out the front door of our house was the Caucasian community, and out our back door was actually the African American community. And so it was always interesting for me growing up which door I wanted to go out that day and who I wanted to be on that particular day, or what I wanted to learn. And so that has been life-changing for me. And so growing up with those women, my mom, my grandmother, my aunts, they were always connected to the community. We were always involved, very heavy into their faith. And so our church, I could remember being at the church with grandma at the food pantry, helping to organize, helping to help the folks coming through the food pantry, and my mother ministering at the jail on Tuesday nights, going and ministering to women in the jail, and grandmother playing the piano at the nursing homes, mornings. And so always helping someone, always building community, always out walking and handing out flyers. And that was just what I grew up doing. And so that just kind of started a fire in me, not knowing what it was at a young age, but always knowing that helping others, you are better when you help someone else. And so that was planted in me. And so growing up where we grew up, had friends, Black and brown friends, but then also friends that were Caucasian. And then knowing that what society had said to us, and what my parents, my mother and my grandmother really hit on, was that society says that we should be the ones in need and the ones seeking assistance. But what I was seeing out my front door was the opposite. It was that the people of color had things, and the folks outside my front door who were Caucasian did not have the things. And so very poor, the homes were very dilapidated, a lot of illness and sickness, and those who had not graduated from school. And so I had a friend that lived out that front door, and her name was Adeline Blevins. And early on from first grade, her being Caucasian and poor and not having, I found myself wanting to give and help, and asking the questions of my family, like, this is backwards, right? And so really being interested in people and the way that they live versus how I lived. And so there would be times when I would want to go back out and be in my own community. I'd go out my back door, and there was my community that I knew, right, and that I was a part of. But I was always interested in what was happening out the front door, and both having the ability to have both those doors right there for me at the corner was transforming. And so as I grew up, I was always involved in something community, youth groups and clubs, and really active, right? Always championing folks when I was in elementary. I think they would tease Adeline, and I would go to her defense. And she would need new shoes, and I would be like, Mom, like, I need to give her these shoes, or can we do these particular things for her? And so early on, just really an advocate, but that was something that was natural for me and something that had been learned, right? So as I just continued to grow and into teenager, into high school, I realized that I want to help people, not knowing that was social work, but knowing that I want to help. And so help as a profession and help as just a passion. I want everyone to be the best that they could be. And so that is the trajectory that my life took. So graduated from Muncie Central High School, went to IU, Bloomington, and became involved in an abusive relationship as a teenager, which kind of stifled my concentration on like college and that life. And so I dropped out of IU and came back to Muncie and just started working in human services, working with families, and the passion was like, okay, I need to finish my career. I need to do this. And so got my bachelor's of science from Indiana Wesleyan and then worked to get my master's in public administration. But all of that has just kind of shaped who I am like today. And so all of my work for the last 20 years has been in social services. And it started, like I said, very young, right at the beginning of college, but working like in childcare as a site director, with watching mothers and single parents families and even two-parent families bring their children to daycare in a low-income area, but love their children and want the best for their children, but struggling to get them to daycare and to work and to parents to continue their education or go to college, and ride in buses and broken cars, but trying to make the best for their lives. And so that right there was very interesting, the family dynamic and the engagement of families. And went with University of Iowa, went through a School of Social Work, Family Development Specialist, kind of a certification process. And with a group, actually from Muncie, a group of us went through this core together, right? Some funding through United Way helped us. But that just really set me on the course to really wanted to understand and be able to help families with particular needs. And that was the start. Then I found myself from infants and children to teenage girls. I worked for Cambridge House, which was a girls' home on Washington, here in the historical Port of Washington. They had a big home, 6 bedrooms, and girls from Delaware County, surrounding counties, and surrounding states who were not in need of jail and really not in need of detention, but just needed some tough love and to guide them the right path. Took a job there as an independent living skills instructor, really working with them to become self-sufficient from age 14 to 18. So when they got to 18, they would have life skills and skills they need to be productive women in the community. So teenage girls, women, and that started my passion to make sure that women who are the life givers have the best opportunities at life, period. And so that started me down the path of families and women. There are no families without women being that nurturer who bring the life. And so I really connected to services around women. Being in social services, most of it nonprofit work, grant funding kind of guides a lot of the employment. And so Cambridge House, we ended up closing it. And that was around 2007-ish or so. And I started to work with Hillcroft Services. I worked with them as an employment consultant for about 6 years, and they were helping individuals who had disabilities, but particularly those who were disabled as like reasonable accommodations may be needed, but also individuals who were coming out of prison who had no job skills, who had deficits, and they needed help to be able to be re-engaged and to find work in the community. So I started to work with individuals who were felons who were coming out, and so looking at men and women who were felons and men and women who had reading disabilities or some small barriers. We wanted to work through that, and so connected with public policy and workforce development to really find jobs to take away the barriers that felonies bring or that disabilities bring, but to help make sure that folks could be viably employed. So did that and loved that work, and engrafted me even more so in social services and to help people. left there because of funding, and then I found myself at a place called Open Door Community Services. And at that time, they had a emergency shelter, a homeless shelter for women and their families, period, not just women, but families, out near campus. And then they had a transitional program right here on the corner of Hackley and Washington in a big brick brownstone, and it was called Greystone. And I took a position as the director of their transitional housing program. So we were working with family units who struggled as a family to be safely housed, stably housed, and financially stable. We worked with them and provided wraparound services and case management and their own apartment, and we just imploded them with, programming and support so they could be the best after 2 years. I did that from 2008 to something, a couple years, like 5 years, right? Just like this 5 to 6 year term. And again, funding. We decided that the funding was becoming really, really slim, and they were looking to break off pieces of Open Door Community Services. And so Open Door Health Services took WIC and the health portion. Bridges Community Services took over the shelter and the housing component of that. And WaTasha thought, this is a time for me to kind of take a break and just be in my own space and my own self. And so about a year I took off, and someone approached me from A Better Way and says, hey, they really need you. Yeah, we need you. And so met with Teresa Clemens, and there was some prevention coordinating that they needed because my scope of work had been women, children, crisis, instability in housing, suicide, domestic violence, all those things that folks who are struggling experience. There is a root cause behind that. And so met with her and we talked, and prevention education was something that I did. And so I started with A Better Way right around 2009 and 9 to 10, and then stayed there until right at the end of 2015. Prevention education, really helping victims of violence, sexual assault, working with them, but to the community was to talk about what a community without violence looks like. So my goal was to go out and educate bankers, educators, boots on the ground workers, mental health providers, hospitals on to how to look for signs of violence, how to help folks who are victims of violence, and how violence against one affects many. And that one individual may be affected, but it goes into her health care, it goes into her education, into her finances, into her family, into her community. So a lot of work around that. And I love that work. And again, women, everything has to be, it's about women and empowering women for me, women and children. It's really that's what it is for me. And 2015, someone said, hey, WaTasha, YWCA is in need of some help. Like, they have these great sheltering programs. They have a lot of great programs. There's a need for someone to kind of help come in and help streamline some of their services. And I'm like, oh no, I am content at A Better Way. I love YWCA. I went to trainings. I've been with the national conferences with them and sat right beside them as they do their work, and we do our work with domestic violence. But I'm content. And then I went to Washington, D.C. for a training session for A Better Way. And YWCA USA was one of the panelists, and they were sharing their mission in a broader way, and all of the things that they were doing and how they were touching not just one organization, but 220 associations across the country, and in their worldwide YWCAs. And I fell in love with that work. And so when I came back, those opportunities were still there, so I started to explore them, and so here I am. And so 20 years, social services, boots on the ground, went from hand-to-hand working with individuals to providing services on a communal level, and then with YWCA really now working communal, but on an advocacy national level with them as well, looking at how to change the systems that have the individuals that are struggling in, how to change the systems that have them kind of bound there. We provide services locally. We want to help with the immediate need. But now my goal in my career at this point in time is to look at the laws and the government policies around how they got to where they are and what we can do to help change that narrative. So more on a changing the systemic lens for individuals who are in despair and crisis.
It's exciting, and there's a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do. So the
of
goal is to work yourself out of business, but
Right.
that won't happen anytime soon.
No. So with that knowledge that YWCA is a national, and you were gone last week to a conference getting help for this organization here, how have the services of the YWCA, how the services it provides, how's that changed over the last 20 years?
Changed dramatically in the last 20 years. I mean, when the YWCA was built they were established in 1911 in Muncie, but they were built here in 1927. And when they were built to be a place of refuge for women who were here in town at the university and may not have necessarily felt comfortable in dormitory living. They could come down and live here. They had safety and security. They had health and fitness activities. There were job development skills they could obtain. They were also put here because there were women who were coming into Muncie for new jobs and had no family or friends here and needed a safe place to live or board. And so the YWCA was that place. And they've done that since 1927. They'd live here. There were sewing programs, yoga programs. You could learn to swim. You could do tap, ballet, and jazz, and all of those great things. And our community really rallied around that work. But over the years, especially in the last 20 years, the clientele started to change, and those coming seeking housing and needing to have a place to stay started to look different. We started to see women of lower economic status coming to say, we need help, I need a place to stay, help me. And the YWCA decided to branch out and open themselves an emergency shelter component to that, right? So they opened a 20-bed emergency shelter for women who were coming looking for housing, who could not afford a private room, who could not afford to pay that, but still needed a place to stay and still needed service and support. And so in 2013, the emergency shelter opened. And so our mission of the YWCA is to eliminate racism, empower women, promote peace, justice, and freedom for all. So that's a mission, and we do that through some key areas, and one of them is health and safety, and that is where our emergency shelter program lives, under that health and that safety component. We give them safety, we make sure that they have adequate health care coverage, and we fight for those types of things. Yeah, we do. We don't get it for them, but we know how to advocate, and we navigate with them. And so for women that are coming here, our partnership with Open Door Health Services will sit with them and help them through the process. So we boots on the ground, make sure that they have that health care coverage if they don't have it when they come to us. And then we also, national, we work to make sure that the laws and the legislator we want to make sure that the health care coverage is there, it stays there, and that it's adequate for women and children of low socioeconomic status, all women actually. And so health and safety is one of our focus areas. The second focus area is economic empowerment for women and girls. And so not just women that we serve here, we want them to be empowered. We do want them to be financially stable. You come with nothing, you have nothing to finance, but something brought you here, and finances had to be a piece of that to see you at a shelter and not having a place that you can afford. So we really get to the root causes of that. A lot of work around financial literacy for women here. And then on a broader scale, we just do a lot of gender pay and equity pay. We just want to rally around pay rates for women. We are the advocate for women, period.
So you're looking at the broader spectrum of the political, at the political level about trying to improve gender equity and financial
for all women.
For all women.
But on a local level, in this building here, the women that we serve, we also want to undergird them with that to make sure that they are financially literate. Doesn't mean they will be financially stable, but literate.
Right.
I don't have any money to learn about a budget, but you will need to know how to budget whatever you have. Perhaps you have food subsidies. You may have public benefits, SNAP benefits. You get $500 a month. Like, we are going to make sure that you know how to budget even that, right?
We can't spend it on the first day. Those things that get lost, you were not born with that knowledge. The emergency shelter still exists.
The emergency shelter still exists. And so Again, YWCA, we eliminate racism, empower women through 3 key focus areas: racial and social justice, economic empowerment for women and girls, and health and safety. Our baby is the shelter because that's what the community knows most, and that's what we promote the loudest. And so the emergency shelter is here. Again, it's 20 beds, so 4 apartments with 3 bedrooms in them. Each bedroom has maybe 2 twin-sized beds, full living room, bathroom, communal kitchen, laundry room, communal laundry room, and they just live. They come to us, we will keep them here in our emergency shelter program. They can come from 0 to 45 days. And in that first couple of days, we're doing some intense intake work, doing some real deep assessment of them, looking at where they start. And then as they work through our program, we look at them in the middle of their stay, then we work a plan for them at 45 days. Not enough to change your life, won't change your life in 45 days. But what you get for 45 days is the stress is gone about where I'm going to sleep tonight, and if I'll eat, or if my children will eat, or if I'll have clean clothes, I'm safe.
If I'm safe.
And then we can tap into stable housing, financial literacy, and either job or education development. Those are the 3 goals that we work around. And so we see women that'll come in and they'll do 45 days and they'll leave, do 30 days, leave, do 2 nights and leave. And then we'll see women that need more than 45 days, and they're ready and determined to change their life. And for them, we extend that from 45 to 60.
You can extend
and then from 60 to 6 months. And then they just move levels. So we have the emergency shelter, and then we have the single occupancy rooms where they can go and stay with us for 6 months at a time.
So are most of the single occupancy rooms filled with people that move up from the emergency shelter? Who else goes into those, and how many rooms do you have?
So we have 3 floors, right?
Yes.
So on our 3rd floor, top floor, we have 31 single room occupancy spaces. So 31 dormitory style spaces, right? So they have their individual room, they have their beds, their dressers, their closets, their televisions, cable television. They have a refrigerator that they lock. There are 31 rooms, 31 women, 17 refrigerators. So 2 may share a refrigerator, but they both have lock and keys. So they know that their things are there. They have 2 large communal kitchens that they use whenever they need to use them, 2 large laundry rooms that they use when they want, large shower rooms that are up there, and a lounge and a computer lab. And so they
kind of like a dormitory
31
floor.
Yeah, absolutely. So 31 on that 3rd floor. The 2nd floor is specifically for mothers and kids. So the 31 at the top are single women. 2nd floor has 9 larger studio type apartments, or larger efficiency spaces for mothers with children. There are 9 of those on that floor. And they also have a computer lab there. They have communal kitchen, private refrigerators, a playroom, access to a library. And then in our lower level is our emergency shelter, where we have the 4 apartments with the 20 beds. And so we could serve 81 individuals in that space. And then one other special.
In which space?
In residential, period, in all of that space.
Right. All 3 floors.
All 3 floors. All 3 floors. And so the lower level, 45 days to 60 days, is where you're going to start. If you come in here with nothing, homeless, we're going to put you in our emergency shelter. But you come in here in emergency status, but you really do have Social Security benefits, you really have a job, you're just not stable, or you get a job and you need to continue to build your strengths, then we see you as a viable candidate for our 2nd stage housing, which is you can be here 6 months, and then we'll look at another 6 months. The max you cap out is at 2 years, but staying here, it's set with goals. And at the end of that 2 years, successful housing is out there, whether that's a Habitat home or public housing, or you got your own self-pay apartment or house, right? So it's a program. No one is just coming in and just hanging. You have to follow a program. So they all sign contracts, and they have individualized programs that they have to work through every day.
That's really exciting.
Every day.
So it's more than just floundering in their own room and drinking in their own tears. They're being proactive about changing their life under your leadership.
Mandate. It's
That's
mandated.
very
You have
exciting.
to attend certain things. Yeah. So
Very
they get a lovely
exciting.
calendar. They know kind of what's happening. They know what's mandatory.
I love
They
that.
know what's optional.
What about the kids? What do you do with the kids?
kiddos, if they are school age, they will definitely within 3 days, 72 hours will be enrolled in school of choice here. McKinney-Vento, there's an act that has a school bus from whatever school site will come here, get them and take them to school. So they'll do, there's tutoring programs for them. We work with Muncie Symphony Orchestra. They'll do petting zoos. They'll do trips to museums. They'll have early childhood educators come in, or the students from the universities come in and do creative writing, homework assistance, character development. So there are programs for them. And then mothers who do have kids, they're parenting wisely. So it's not to say you're not a great parent, we want to improve your parenting skills. So we make sure that there is a structured time for parents and kids to actually be together for that bonding as well too.
Who runs the Parenting Wise program?
Parenting Wisely, we had Terry Starkey was,
know
Terry Starkey, so
do.
they did Parenting Wisely. And then there is, we've really joined forces with Commonwealth Church, who are new neighbors. So they're working with us really in a good, strong way. So, yeah.
All right, so if we move on a little bit, how has your organization's relationship with its clients changed, which you kind of addressed? You kind of addressed. These programs weren't in existence when people were coming to Ball State. How did those programs evolve over time?
The programs evolved because we had to be able to meet the needs of that current clientele. And so as the clientele began to shift and we looked at a different landscape of individuals coming to shelter, we had to make sure that our programs fit their needs and their wants. It's one thing to create a program that we think looks good and it sounds good, but if it doesn't meet a direct need for an individual, if it's not going to help to improve them in any life area, then it's not a benefit. So just tactical things, just pretty much everyday things.
Seeing
How
what
to
needs
budget,
were there.
Grocery shopping, nutrition on a budget,
And there's
health
no grocery
and fitness,
around
no
here.
grocery stores around here.
How do you get them to the grocery store?
We don't. We have a great support system from the community. So bus tickets, they will get bus tickets and they'll get on the bus and they will go. So can you imagine a woman with 2 children who needs to go grocery shopping and she has to ride the bus? How many groceries can she bring back with 2 kids? And so we really worked with High Street United Methodist Church. And at that time there was a lady named Karen who thought we really need to do something with women and families who need groceries, but there's not one here and they need to get on the bus. So we wrote a good, cool grant to get like MITS involved and Walmart involved, and MITS was willing to donate like huge shopping rolling carts and bags, and they used to be resistant to you getting on their buses with more than maybe 2 grocery bags, right? Just barrier after barrier. And so working with them to educate them on, what it really is like to live in a homeless state or in crisis and need help, and everyone has blocked access to that help. And so wrote a cool grant, and we got some carts that we've set strategically in different housing complexes, and so women can shop, get 5, 10, 7 bags of groceries, put them in these cool, tall, rolling shopping carts. They can check them out from here. They can check them out from like Gillespie Towers and the Mid-Station and some other high street church. Go shop. MITS will let you put the carts on the bus, and so just working one at a time, like breaking down the barriers. Just going to the grocery store for them is a task.
It's hard.
Getting to work if you don't have a car is a chore.
Boots on the ground.
So yeah.
What do you think caused the change in your clientele?
The job market here, Muncie has always been blue collar, but really an automotive industry, right?
Yes.
And so once those industries started to move and close out, you saw folks who would normally be in the factories or maybe working in, in the factories or in their offices or whatever. You saw those folks seeking employment in places that they normally would not. You know what I mean? You see the factory worker going in now to Walmart or working, those jobs. And so then the job market, the pool isn't very great. And so all of those are jobs that are really low pay, low wage. So how do you sustain a family on something that's not a livable wage? And so we really see ourselves working with a lot of Alice clients, and Alice, totally know what Alice is. And so
asset limited,
income constrained, and employed.
So
So
before I learned Alice, I always called them the gap families, the ones that were making too much to get subsidies, but not enough to exist.
Not enough to exist. So, so that played a huge piece in the clientele changing, right?
How does this opiate epidemic that's getting all the news these days and is real and is heavy here in Muncie, how does that affect your organization, or has it at all?
It definitely hits us. We do feel it. We do experience and are exposed to the opioid crisis. We see that. And so with the YWCA, you think about us being that emergency shelter, having that program, and people think that just homeless individuals are here because just a lack of get up and go, or just, just lazy, and just no. There are master's level women who live here, women who are coming out of prison and have no family supports. They're re-entering the community, they come here. Community corrections says we have women on ankle braces and they can't go back to this particular home. Can we put them at the YW? She's coming out of a rehab facility and needs somewhere to be. She's waiting on a bed at a rehab facility. Can she come to you? Department of Child Services says we're going to take her child if she doesn't have this stable housing, and we'll do drug tests to make sure that she stays clean while she's with you. You know what I mean? And so we definitely do have, are exposed to that quite a bit. We see it. It's here, and we try to work with that. We aren't in the rehab business, and so it's hard for us. We do what we can, but we identify those things, or we know that those things are happening here, or we suspect those individuals are using or have used on premises or are in the throes of addiction. Then the first thing is treatment. We say this program cannot serve you, but we're going to work with you to get into the place that can help you best, right? And so we will do that, but definitely plays a huge piece in no housing, because money is not there. Addictions, you lose your housing, you lose your employment, you lose your children, you lose you.
You lose you. So you mentioned wraparound service, but it sounds like you work with CASA, you work with Bridges, you work with everybody through this store.
We have a huge collaboration network, pretty huge, everybody.
Okay. What are you've mentioned the goals of YWCA, overarching. My question is, of course, what are the key goals of your organization and what challenges is it trying to address? Have these goals and challenges changed over that same 20-year time period?
And so the YWCA, the mission is what it is. It's a national mission. We all have to, as an association, to do exactly that thing, and we have to live in those veins. I know for the last 20 years, the YWCA here has really been great about the housing component, which falls under health and safety, and have kind of left racial and social justice kind of off to the back burner, as well as economic empowerment. It's not been spoken very loudly. And so as a part of that organization, as a YWCA, we have to embody our mission in its entirety. We cannot pick and choose which pieces we'll do. And so just working here in the last 2 years to really move our organization forward, to make it the best shelter program, because we're not a shelter itself, but we have a shelter program, but to make sure that the community understands just exactly what the YWCA is and what we do. And so we were just working with consultants right now to kind of move us, because where we are right now and the work that we do right now has been great. We have helped a lot of women, and we want to continue to help them. But we also have to advance our mission in the other focus areas as well.
So since you've been at the helm, you're raising those other two things.
We have to raise those up, And again, this building is great. We love this building. It's historical, it's registered, it's the heartstrings of many. But when you're in the world, the nonprofit work, and I have this beautiful building, and there are dollars attached to this beautiful building, expenses are, right? So really, we're just working with a consultant firm that is just helping us to look at it from an objective standpoint and say, is this building that was here in 1927, is this still the building that you need today? Is it still the mission? Is this what you need today? What does your community need? What do you want to offer to your community? Yeah.
So it sounds like when we kind of glossed over the challenges that have changed over a period of time, but it sounds like one of the challenges before you came to the helm, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be there were so many immediate fires to put out that they couldn't get to the broader piece of YWCA. So you're working to get the fires put out and get people safe and empowered, but then you're also now bringing it up to the other. What, in your view, are the root causes of those challenges?
The challenges of
The challenges that you have in this organization meeting your goals.
The biggest challenge is people say, oh, you're a nonprofit, you shouldn't have money. No, we're not in the business to make money, but we can have money. And I think the mindset at some points was that we don't have to have money. We absolutely do have to have money.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the first challenge is finances, right?
Yes.
Never enough,
True.
right? Never enough, do great work, never enough. So that is the number one challenge for us. Number two is just community awareness. People, if you know we're here, you know we're here. But do you know what we do? Some people do not know what we do. So finances and marketing around our who we are and what we do are the two huge challenges. Since I've been here, I mean, there have been some just fires. Again, this is a huge building. There's like expense. A boiler goes out. That's not a $200 fix. That's, you know, $5,000 fix, you know? And so finances, needing those, that's our biggest challenge. But also our community's perception of who we are.
Right.
And the community only knows who we are based on what we tell them or what we show them.
Right,
So,
and they're familiar, and from a personal standpoint, we know what the YMCA
Right.
does, and YWCA sounds like the
Right.
same, but it's not, is
it's
it?
not the same.
It's not the
It's
same
not
at
the
all.
same.
So, are there other organizations like this that are doing the same kind of work that you do?
Mm-hmm.
Like Christian ministries, how are they different from you? I can't even think of some of the Better Way.
Mm-hmm.
They're also taking in emergency for safety. How are you different than some of those organizations, or is there just that much need?
So we all serve marginalized individuals and populations. YWCA is the only emergency shelter in Central Indiana that will take a woman and her children without any other barriers or requirements. And so the YWCA versus A Better Way will serve individuals who are victims of violence or sexual assault. If they're just homeless because of a life situation, they can't go to A Better Way. They can come to the YWCA.
I see.
Okay. Christian ministries will do the same. They will house an individual. Now, mind you, the woman that cannot get into A Better Way because she's not a victim of violence and she's just homeless, she'll come here. And as we start to do her intake and get into her life, we realize that there actually has been violence. So about 70% of the women that we serve
Right.
are victims of violence, you know. But we will take any woman and her child up to 17, a male up to 17, and there are no other organizations that would do that particular thing. And we don't just serve Delaware County, we serve the surrounding counties and the bordering states. If Hurricane Katrina hits in the state, then folks are migrating out and going to places where they think there is housing. So we see folks in the shelter that are not just from Muncie or Delaware County or from Grant County, but we have people here from Chicago and Louisiana and other places that have migrated this way. And so we do our best to try to keep them where they are, but we see ourselves being that catch-all. So Christian ministries will help a few families. They have a few of their private rooms, and they can serve a family unit. So, you know, a mom and a couple kids, or a husband, wife, and children, father and children. But they're limited space. They have 4 apartments.
Right.
Bridges Community Services will do some of the same. They'll do a family makeup, and they'll use those. Muncie Mission serves men in addictions, and they have a program for men 18 and up.
Interesting.
And then YWCA, again, we have these rooms where we serve all individual women and their children who are homeless as a result of whatever. So when they go to Christian ministries and they don't follow the guidelines and they get kicked out of Christian ministries, the YWCA will get them as well. They go to A Better Way, and A Better Way cannot help them because they can't follow the curriculum or the programming, and they are asked to leave. They come over here. Or if they have...
How do you get them to be successful? If they've
we
already had
have-
2 strikes against them, they come here. How do you manage?
We work hard to... We don't save them all.
Oh, I
You know, so A Better Way will say, you know, her time is up with us. We're a 45-day stay. We couldn't get her housed. She needs to come to the YW. and we'll take her. We still can't get her house, but we will work. So we are kind of that last stop.
You're the drip pan.
We're the drip pan. We are the drip pan. Then we'll have ladies walk in our door, and we're like, you are really in the throes of violence and sexual assault. We are going to connect you with a better way, right? Mm-hmm. So we do some of that. But yeah, so the difference is that we don't have, we try to remove as many barriers as possible to be able to serve women and their kids.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what challenges have you had in finding staff and expertise for your organization?
So the staff, great staff, passionate, determined, dedicated, and dependable, but just not enough staff. If you're going to run an emergency shelter, kind of there's 24 hours you need, folks. So we have that manpower. Are there enough? Absolutely not. I need double the staff that I have.
How many do you have?
15. I need double the staff, right?
I didn't even know you had that many.
Yeah, we do. So double the staff. If you're serving a capacity of 62 to 80 people, you need some people, right? So staffing is always a challenge, and not really staffing, but the financing to hire the staff. So we are lucky to have community services. Like we work with the senior aid program, where we have employees that are not paid by us, but are paid by another agency that can help come in and do reception work or operate our front desks.
Very creative.
Right, very creative. So some internships, some paid, some non-paid, a great volunteer program. Trustees, Center Township trustees, they pay utilities and bills for folks in the community. Folks have to go and pay that back in work labor.
Didn't know that
Come and help
either.
clean up. Yeah, so we are very creative in that way to help fill in those gaps. But the challenges with employees is always great, right? Go ahead.
Have those challenges changed over time?
They have changed. So really looking at bringing in a particular skill set. We do social services, so we need social workers and human service majors and things like that. And so really been really strategic with myself and our key staff with really connecting with the university, Ivy Tech, IU Health, IU East, Taylor, just to bring in students who are ready to learn, practicum students who can be here hands-on learning and also helping us to do what we need to do. So we've been very creative around that piece.
That'd be good for them to see people who are coming up in the industry to spread the seeds of the good work that you do. Okay, let's get back to that money thing. Money makes the world go round. The love of money is the root of all evil, but hey.
Yeah.
Car doesn't run without oil.
It doesn't.
What is your budget and what are the sources of your funding?
Our funding is really grant-based, federal funds, local funders, donations from our donors and supporters, and fundraisers, right? That's how we generate our revenue. About 80% of our budget is flooded with grants, right? Funds. So we have a couple of federal grants that we look to, HUD-based grants. We get some from community development, City of Muncie Community Development, HUD dollars, United Way, Ball Brothers Foundation, George and Francis Community Foundation.
So is this a big part of your time, or do you have somebody that does all these grants, or is that a big part of what you do?
It's a big part of what I have said I want to do, because when I started, there were some, but I'm thinking, what are we doing here? There are so many other streams and avenues and opportunities. We serve women with these backgrounds or women with these needs. I will go attract the dollars from those organizations and funders who do those particular things. So like HUD, we weren't receiving HUD funding per se before I came to the YWCA. Emergency solutions grants that are based around emergency shelter services. We weren't receiving those things before I came in, right? And I'm like, what are we doing, right?
Did you learn about those through the YWCA International, or National? Is that how you learned about these opportunities, or did you
I've been doing social services for 20 years.
So you just brought them with you?
Brought skills. And so that was the thing. Hey, come to the YW. They really could use some help. Yeah. And so that was No, they don't have any money. They can't pay me. Let's negotiate a little bit. I'll do this for you. You paying grant writers and they're not really from the community and know what to do. I'll do that, and then I'll help close some of that budget gap. And so that's just some of that expertise that I have had over the years, and knowing that when I came here, they really were solely dependent on local foundations, their fundraising, and they have an endowment.
Well, we're blessed to have wonderful foundations in this community, so it is easy to fall back on that. But what is your budget, and how is it holding up?
Our budget is about $700,000, and we pretty much do break even work here.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
What if somebody came in and said, "I'm giving you $10,000"? What would you do with it after you got over your heart attack?
We've had somebody do that here in the last couple of weeks, right? But see, I want to sound appreciative.
Yes.
When I think about $10,000, honestly, for me,
I know.
that's like my gas bill and my electric bill for 2 months, right? And so,
But that would be on top. So let's go beyond operating costs. What would you do with
what I do with that, I would probably just upgrade our children's playroom. I want it to be cute. I want it to be welcoming, and there's toys in there, and the paint could be a little bit cheerier. I want to see some murals on the wall. I want the kids that come here to feel good. So they're the kids' playroom and their computer lab.
Yeah. Do you ever use like the Boy Scouts?
They come and do stuff.
That'd be a great Eagle project for a Boy Scout.
Okay.
I've got 3 Boy Scouts,
got
and
3
they were
Boy Scouts?
always looking for that stuff.
Oh man, we just want it to be lively and modern.
And welcome.
And
Yeah,
welcoming.
welcoming.
So really just IT things. Just wanted to, them to be up to date and be able to go in and play get on a computer that's working with kind of some high speed internet. You know what I mean? There are some things, yeah.
Which is good. We know that suffers a lot with kids when they get in school and they haven't had access to that. So moving on, how is your organization impacted by local, state, and federal regulations, if at all? Which I know they are.
They are impacted. So say when the government's shut down and we can't get our money from the government, that affects us in a huge way, right?
Yeah,
it has me holding my breath.
Because the money from the government, we talked more about grants and communities, but some of the grants that you're getting are coming from
federal dollars
and all that. And some of that money does what? Pays the electricity and the lights?
They help pay for utilities. They help with basic operations or maintenance,
right?
Supplies, or specifically around the emergency shelter. So most of the federal dollars that we get, although we have this huge building, it only covers fees associated with that emergency shelter, that sheltering component piece. Doesn't pay for my marketing woman. It doesn't pay for our maintenance. It pays for my housekeeper who cleans the shelter. It pays for the shelter director. It pays for some of me as a CEO's admin fees, but those federal dollars only wrap around housing, right? And so when those things are held back or those delays in payments are coming, it's kind of a hold your breath kind of moment. But most of the money that we really do get is unrestricted, so we can use most of our local funders' dollars any way that we need to.
So if there's a shortage on the federal money, you can slip it over there, and then do you have to move it back?
Absolutely.
I imagine you have an accountant or you have a
we have
bookkeeper?
an accountant. We do. Swift and Associates is our contracted accountant.
Awesome.
So they do our accounting. We need.
But not the monthly bills, not the monthly stuff. Do you have somebody on staff that takes care of your bookkeeping and
we do
have
have someone that does that. We do have an operations. I'm blessed. So I'm the CEO.
Good.
I have an operations manager. I have a director of the shelter program.
Excellent.
So I don't have to do those things. I get to be
excellent
top overseer, like big picture. Funding, hey, this is the work that we're doing. This is why you need to be rallying around us. I need your support financially and, all that. But we do have Swift and Associates again. I'm sorry. She and her company, they do weekly. They are here with me.
Good.
They're doing the bills. They do all those things.
Good.
They're not on site every day of the week, but they're here several times a week in their office doing the work for us. Me approving, me clearing what we need done, and them just making it happen. Printing the bills, saving QuickBooks.
And then your board has to approve that and sign off on it? Do they have a hand in your finances?
They don't. They sign, so it's the board, contracted accountant, and myself together. So the board just will sign off on checks with me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Interesting. All right, so have you seen a change in those local, state, and federal regulations over the last 20 years?
Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
talk about that, because that's going to be big.
Yeah, I mean, the regulations change, funding gets shorter, tighter, there's, just think about Muncie itself, even when we look at the local level. There are so many great nonprofits doing good work in Muncie, right? Mm-hmm. The foundations are amazing to us all. So many dollars to go around. Competition is there. Same thing with state dollars, there's a pot of money today for this particular, area. Oh, we're not focused on homeless this year. It's on education. Or it's on education. It's really on education right now. It really is on education right now, right? And so that affects us and on up. And so it's one of the things that with locally in our board I've stressed is that I am a great grant writer. I can go and get those funds, but those are not things that we can depend on. Right. So we have to look at donor retention, sustainability, developing new donors. The YWCA is an old organization. We've had a lot of historical and legacy donors, and they continue, as they pass away. Mm-hmm. The millennials are not connected to our mission. They don't know they don't have the connection to the YWCA that their grandmothers and great-grandmothers had, right? So we have to figure out ways to engage an entirely new generation of donors.
So do you have a Facebook presence?
We do have that. We do all of those things. Talking tours, having individuals come in, Muncie Young Professionals. We just have CBs. We open our space, our public space, this first floor to plethora of folks who use the space that we're in, our community room. You see millennials in here. You see By Five. You see Schaefer Leadership doing things in here. You see just groups coming. Muncie Time Bank, League of Women Voters. There's just a group of people that are using our space. And we bring them in and we try to engage them in our work. Yes, we're in our space. Use our community room. And while you're here, we're going to share our story with you. Pulling the university in, our financial institutions. We do a lot of things, ladies' lunches, bring ladies in, have lunch, talk about what we do, why they should care. Then we talk and tour. We take folks around, talk to them about what we do, show them what we do, let them see what we're doing here.
I've got about 3 organizations in my mind right now that I'm getting ready to talk to you about later. Okay. So that brings me to my next question. How may the community help your mission? Obviously financial. What other ways?
Support. We love volunteers, in-kind service, just coming and seeing. There are so many people who say, I don't have anything to give. You absolutely do. Everyone has some talent, We've got kids. They just want someone to come and color a picture with them. We get so many donations and things from our community. We don't have people that can just have the time to sort and organize, You have a great idea and you want to host you have a SIOT meeting and you don't have a space. You know what? We have a beautiful community room. Come use it. Then you can come in and kind of get in our space and see. And so we just want people to know that we're here. We have the shelter. We have programs, but we are also a community organization, and we're here for the community. And we couldn't be here if it wasn't for the community. And so give. We have twice as nice resale shop, right? Tri Kappa runs that for us. Every single dollar that is raised through the donations that come through our door, all those monies come right back to help our shelter program continue, right? Last year, 2018, Tri Kappa, in donations of people's items coming in and them selling them for 10 cents or $1, net us like $17,800 last year. Good. They've been doing it for 10 years, so $98,000, right?
Good.
And it's all because our community says, I want to give these things to the YWCA. And what we can't use immediately to clothe and dress, our women and children, and twice as nice can use those things. And voluntarily, all of it comes back, and those dollars help our emergency shelter program.
That's awesome.
And that's why they can come here and they don't have to pay for toilet paper. We'll give them hygiene products and we'll give them food because we have.
So you buy that out of
We use the
Twice as Nice shop.
Helps with all of those things. If the community's not donating hygiene products, then we have that revenue stream to do that. We barter with Second Harvest. Second Harvest has a satellite office on the second floor, and so
There you go.
yeah, they get an office space to meet with their local residents who are going through some of their programs, and we get to use food. We get to order food from their website, and they deliver food to us for our food pantry.
But you don't have a communal table.
We don't. So what we do is that we have a food pantry here, so that if women come to us, I mean, we don't cook meals, we don't do that. They have their own individual time. They can cook and eat at their will. Some come with food subsidies when they first get here. Some do not. So we want to make sure that we have food and things for them. And so
Sure.
Instead of us having to pay a fee to order food through Second Harvest, we just are bartering. I get to order unlimited from them in a month, and they just have a space for their satellite staff to come in and out as they need to, right?
Very good.
So yeah, so we have a lot of connections like that we use. Yeah.
Scratch your back, I scratch mine. We all are better for it. So do you have anything else to add?
I don't. I just think that you should just look out for YWCA in the future. You have a bold mission. It's very bold.
It is.
We're like it's bold, but eliminating racism, empower women. That's what we do. And so, bold mission and a bright future. I just need people to understand that we will be here for the long term, and it just may not look like what you thought it should. It won't look like it did in 1927 or 1980 or even 2000, but it'll still be here. We need to be here. So.
Very good. Thank you very much, WaTasha Barnes-Griffin,
Yes.
for spending this time with us and for the work that you do and the passion that you have for our community. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.